Hello and welcome to my channel. If you've been following for a while, then you know that I recently replaced my Yaesu FT-857D with an 891. I've had the radio for a little while now, and I'm ready to tell you what I think about the difference between these two radios. Welcome back and thanks for being here. My name is Scott, and yeah, I'm ready to tell you what I think of the 891. Some things that I like about the 891 and some things that I miss about my 857D. I'll tell you right up front, this is not going to be an in-depth review. There are plenty of YouTube channels out there that do in-depth reviews of various ham equipment, and this is not going to be one of those videos. So if that's what you're looking for, you're in the wrong place. I'm going to show you things that, as a mobile operator, I only use the most basic features on a radio because to really get into depth could be dangerous while driving. So, yeah, bear with me here. Let's see what you think. The thing that I like right away when I take a look at this is the display is very obviously larger. Like here is a full SWR meter stretched across here, and the 857 had an SWR meter as well, but it was just a little tiny thing right off over here, and it wouldn't tell you what the level was. If it was a 1.2 to 1 or 1.5 to 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, it would just kind of give you a graph that would swell up and down, and you kind of had to guess. And this one has a little bit more sweep to it, and I like that, and so it is a better display here. And the S meter is more definitive. I think with the 857D, it would tell me, I could see an S3 or an S5, and it would tell me those things. But it was just this little display, this little graph off over here on the side, where this one sweeps across the full thing here. And you'll see that in action here in just a minute. The display also has larger digits on it, and I like that. And you can see here that it is showing the VFO, this is VFO A, and then this is B down here, so I can see simultaneously which frequency each of the VFOs is set to. So then if I wanted to, I could just swap between the two. Is that this button? Nope. It's hard to see from the driver's seat. I can switch between the two immediately, and I could do that with the 857 as well, but it was just different. With the 857, I had to push the button and swap VFOs to see what the frequency was, where on this one, I could look and see if it's even worth a switch. To be honest, though, I don't really use the VFO AB switch that much. So anyway, it's just something I noticed. Now, if I tune here a little bit, obviously the knob here, the 857 had a knob just like this, and then I could switch to fast and scroll up and down the band even faster. The one thing that I miss, though, let me get out of fast, is let's say that I was on this frequency right here and knew that I needed to fine-tune. Sure, I can fine-tune, but a lot of callers, myself included, will usually just get right on a nice even number, like we'll come down here to the zeros. And the thing that I miss about the 857 is, let's get off of the zeros and just get it in there somewhere, is right now this knob here is completely without function because I'm not in any of the menus. And in this state, the 857, if I were to just click, 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 it would click 1 kilohertz at a time, and I could just land it straight on the zeros. And that was convenient I could rest my my arm here on the windowsill and then just kind of scroll through 1 click at a time, 1 kilohertz at a time. And that was convenient and that's when I'm driving down the road right now. And I don't want to look at the display. I want to keep my eyes on the road, and I could just eyes front, click, 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 click. And I liked that. This radio does not do that. Sure, I could come over here and scroll with my finger, and then of course go to fast and scroll, put it on fast, but then scroll slow, I suppose. But I can't, it's a little awkward to rest on the windowsill and then reach over and do that. And then resting on the steering wheel is a little awkward too. So I miss that feature. So I really do like the ability to just click, click, click with this knob here, and it's just more convenient. But something I discovered on accident, though, is, let me get it off of fast. This is a potential solution. The microphone here, it has a fast up, down, and so sure, I can click. You can see I've got my increments really low. Well, I can take this, press and hold, and then it'll just scroll slowly for me. And I kind of like that because I can just let it run and then bump it again real quick if I happen to hit a frequency. I mean, you saw me just look down at it, but that's because I put the microphone down. So let's say I had it in my hand and I was just holding it. I could just, as I'm looking at the road, pretend you're the road and I'm looking straight down the road, I can just push and hold this button, and then when I hear it beep, I know that it's scanning. And then when I hear it start to roll into a conversation or a QSO or somebody calling CQ, then I just press it real quick and it stops. That's something I'm going to try. I discovered that just very recently and I haven't really used it very much. But that is my workaround for not having this knob here be very active. So you may be wondering whether or not I miss UHF and VHF, and the answer is no. I really didn't use it so much on this radio anyway, on the 857. I'd like to try some single sideband on 2 meters sometime, or UHF, but I just don't really have the capability with antennas. Everything I have is vertically polarized, and so I want to stand by for this, experiment with some Yagis on the roof, maybe just for like contesting or a few times a year just for giggles. So that's why I'm not terribly serious about it just yet. I'm not a contester, and it's an undertaking to put a Yagi and a rotator up on the roof and everything, but someday I think it's going to happen. But it was nice to have the 857 back there as a backup for my 5100 here. So if something happened to my ID 5100 and I lost dual band capability, all I had to do is just flip a switch in the back of the car, and then the 857 would be patched into the antenna up there on the roof, and then I could continue on with my dual band activity, repeater use and stuff like that. So by removing the 857, I have lost that capability, but that's a capability it's an emergency capability. It's not a let's do this every day capability. So it's not a huge loss. Now I'm looking at this. I can't tell if this display is washing out the camera or not, so I'm just going to turn it off. Right now I am on 20 meters, and let me go ahead and run with that. Anyway, so here's the static. Let me well, check this out. Well, here we go. We got the 4 buttons along the bottom here. Turn it down while I talk. So these 3 buttons are configurable to where I can put whatever I want on them. And so I have digital noise reduction, the scope, and a preamplifier. The IPO, I forget what that stands for. I'll put it up here in the corner. But this is basically a preamplifier. The clarifier button is not programmable. It features either, it acts as an escape key in some of the menu settings or as a clarifier. And what that is, basically you push the button, and let's say I'm working DX and the person on the other end is working split for one reason or another. There are videos on why people work split, but let's say that he is he's transmitting on 7.255, but he's listening 1 kilohertz down. Well, then I can take this and then scroll down. If he's down, say he's down 5 kilohertz, I can take this and rotate it until it is programmed down 5 kilohertz. And so that's what the clarifier does. And then I've got this row of buttons up here. From the seated position here, I can't really read them so well, and so I don't use them very much. I can roll up like this and then get a better look at them, but for the most part, I'm only using these first 2 buttons here, and then sometimes I just remember to go to the 4th button if I want to switch to memory or something like that. So yeah, you get used to it. The more I use the radio, the more familiar everything is. And then, of course, if the radio is sitting on a desk, then it's very easy to see and read. Now, I had become used to operating my 857 with there was like a couple of switches up here, and I could use them to switch very easily between the bands. I could just push the button, and it would just scroll between the bands very easily. This one is not quite as easy. With this one, I push a button here on the top, and then you can see this menu comes up, And basically, I mean, it's a little slow. You have to turn this thing a lot to get it to move. But as long as it's turning, it won't switch anything, or it won't stop. So, but as soon as I stop, it then moves on to the other band. And so that's how you choose between the bands. So if I get there onto 40 meters, there you go. All right, so 20 meters, that's pretty much how you choose. And then you press and hold the same button to switch between AM, data, single sideband, YAM. I don't operate on AM, but I do tune on AM because in the menus I can set it up to where single sideband I'm out at 100 watts, but on AM I'm only at 5 watts, and so I do that only for tuning, and I'm pretty brief about it. So let me go back to single sideband. So you could see that all of that took a little bit of time. It's not awful, but when you're driving down the road, it's not terribly convenient. What I have learned, I think on one of these, on a YouTube video, I think on details on how to operate the radio. Again, this is not a detailed operating video. Go check out these other videos to show you how to do it. I wish I could link to that video, but I don't remember where I saw it. But what I can do is switch over to the memories. What I've done is I've programmed in some stuff into the memories. And so you can see here, this is a 6 meter net frequency, a 10 meter net, 10 meters, which is all of these. You can see I've got 10 meter tune, 12 tune, 15 tune, so on and so forth. So what these are is the bottom of my privileges, right? So if I manually tune from there, you can see that's the bottom of the band for general, and then of course to get back to it, I have to hit that memory button again. But let's look at 20 meters, right? So I go to 20 meters, and now I'm on 20 meters, right? And I can just tune the 20 meter band. And then if I want to switch to 40, well, now I'm on 40, and of course my text is messed up there, but that's 40 meters, and that's a 40 meter tune. So what is the tune? Well, if you notice, let me go to 20 because the text is a little better. If you notice the difference between 20 meters, so there I'm at 14,225 is basically where that band is for me anyway. Now if I go to tune, that's kind of in the center of my operating privilege, and it is AM. And so it has automatically put the radio where I need it to be to tune up. So basically, I'm here on 20 meters. I key, and you can see the 1.5, 2, 3. So there's an idea of what that looks like. You can see I can get it down pretty good. So that's 5 watts. And then I go back to 20 meters where I can then scroll the band and get along. Let's see if we can find something to tune into, and then I will demonstrate some of the filters on the radio. I'm going to turn on the preamp. I have this selected. I programmed it when I thought that having this on was ideal, and then once I learned what it was, because I didn't know what IPO was when I was setting everything up. So let me turn on the preamp, and you can see that brought the noise floor up, but that's also going to bring the signals up. Keep in mind, I have said this in previous videos, the more filters you turn on, the more, I'll just say, the more deaf your receiver potentially becomes. And so if you're looking for weak signals, you want all of those filters turned off. And then of course, once you have a strong signal or an established QSO, especially if it's going to be a rag chewing going on for a while, then yeah, turn on some filters and get rid of some of the noise to make everything sound a little bit better. But here, check this out. So I am going to, well, let me demonstrate the scope first. So if I turn on the scope, I don't see anything going on. Let's hit the sweep. Let's see what that is. Turn on fast so I can get up there a little bit quicker. There you go. So there's something.
Okay, Roger, your signal reports 507. We're going to have to take a break here, so we'll send it over to Hans. We'll be back in a few minutes. W1IFO,
Now, if you notice, I bumped the knob a little bit, so I'm off frequency by oh goodness, I forget what that is. Is that 100 hertz? So I mean, I can't. Oh, it's because I'm on fast. So if I turn that off, then I can get to it. I can get there pretty good. But see, I'm trying to get to perfection, right? If this knob was functional right now, like it is on the 857, I could just click and then it'd be bam, set right to the zeros. And so I do miss that for that perfection, I suppose. I've switched to 40 meters, and I'm going to see if I can find a nice strong signal so I can do some demonstrating for you. All right, so that's a nice strong signal. So here's the preamp on.
Good morning, Bob. Yeah, you've got it. You're 10 over down here in Middleburg.
There's the preamp off. And so when I turn it off, it brings the signal down. It sounds a little cleaner, a little less noise.
73. All right, let me say hi to Chuck. I think Chuck was in there. Well, that's you, Chuck. Roger, Dave. Beautiful signal. 60 on not unusual. Have a great day. 73. Thanks.
Now, the noise isn't too bad. Now check out the digital noise reduction.
They sounded good. Back to you, Ivory, KFRO. Yeah, I got to go, Ivory, but thanks anyway. We'll catch you next time. All right, how did you lead us? Okay, that's
All right, hear the difference there? If I was talking to this guy, this is a little bit of a weak signal, but it's not awful. But if I was talking to him, I'd push that.
Have a great day. Yeah, the alligators weren't there, so you came in quite well. Sounding good. Have a great day. KF4 clear. Contact. Good, Jim. Okay, thanks, Bobby. All good morning there. About 10 over 9 up here in 40. Sounding good.
This is actually a very clear signal. Not a lot of noise either, so I don't really need the digital noise reduction. Let me show you some of these other features here. I'm going to turn that down for just a minute. And so I do use the processor for speech processing, and I have it set kind of low, I think. Yeah, to 20. If I turn it too high, it compresses the voice more, and it starts to sound unnatural. And so I'm not going to claim that I've done a lot of research on this. I am basically parroting some settings that somebody on a YouTube channel recommended, and the logic behind his instructions seemed sound, and so that's what I've gone for. There's the attenuator. I don't attenuate. Now the noise blanker, you're not going to hear it do much here. Check this out. I mean, not anything good. Still set to 0. So you can see it distorts when you turn it up too high. The purpose of the noise blanker is for electrical noise, like in your car. And so my car doesn't emit hardly any electrical noise. Usually when I hear interference that's noise related like that, it's coming from another vehicle. And maybe we're passing in opposite directions, and it happens so fast that there's just not time, or it's not worth the effort to come over here and turn on the noise blanker. So I don't ever use it. And then there's this width adjustment here. And that allows me to select how wide of a bandwidth I want. And so I can use this. Let's say I've got some ringing or some weird noise that I want to get rid of. I can use that to filter that out. I can't really demonstrate it so well, but what I can't demonstrate it filtering out noise right now, but I can show you what it does to the tone of somebody's voice. So let me open it up so it's got the full spectrum of their voice. Oh, there is some noise there. Here he sounds a little tinny. So that's a little over filtered.
Roger, Ivo 73, you have a good rest of the night. We'll be listening.
So there's the full width. I usually just leave it at 28, but I also leave it turned off most of the time. And let's see what else we have in here. I do have my meter turned on. I do have AGC, automatic gain control, turned on. I have a microphone equalizer. I have two different equalizer settings in here. And if I remember, one of them is for when the speech processor is turned on, and the other one is for when the speech processor is turned off. Let me just show you. I'm not going to go through each setting and define it. I'm just going to show it to you real quick. And so I am just going to slowly scroll through and let you look at my settings, and then you decide for yourself if that's what you want. Okay, that's about all I can think to show you without this video just getting too boring and perhaps even misinformative. I don't want to say anything that is inaccurate. I am just a quick, I just use it. I don't dive deep into all the meanings of all the settings. I just find what works for me, use those features, and then I keep it simple. I'm a simple person, especially as a driver. So I don't know, post questions if you have them. I don't know what kind of questions you could there's lots of questions you can ask. I don't know if I can answer them. So let me know if you have a question. And of course, the operator's manual is your friend when it comes to this stuff. So that is how I learned about the preamp, because everybody would talk about turning a preamplifier on or off, and the word preamp, you have to dig into the owner's manual to find the word preamp. And so once you find preamp, then it points right to the IPO. And I would have never thought to associate IPO with preamplifier. So that's what the owner's manual is good for, is learning how to do things like that. So read your owner's manual. It does come in handy. I appreciate you being here. Again, this was not an in-depth video on how to operate this radio or what its capabilities are. There are plenty of other videos out there on the YouTube to find and learn things, because that's how I learned what I've learned. I hope what I've shown you is beneficial or has taught you something about the radio's capabilities, but again, it's not in depth. I'm working on other content. For example, I am changing the height of my Scorpion antenna mount, so that will probably be my next video. And I also have acquired an automatic motorized antenna tuner. Where has this thing been my whole life? I haven't installed it yet, but I will soon, and I hope to share a video about that really soon. So as always, I appreciate you watching my videos, especially if you're still here all the way to the end. Again, post questions if you have them. I'm always glad to answer, and I will see you next time. Take care.